Steve Maggs here at Burnston Auto Wrecking in Burnston, Massachusetts, doing the junkyard crawl, a little bit of sports car love. We all remember MG, stands for Morris Garages, pre-World War II. And of course, after World War II, one of the first British sports cars to make huge waves in America was the MGTC, followed by the MGTD, the MGTF, there was no MGTE, and then the MGB, actually the MGA, and then the MGB arrives in 1962. Now, this is the first British or MG sports car with unit construction. The MGA, all the way back to the TC, were body on frame. So this, with its unit construction, theoretically was a better handler. Again, no body on frame to twist and flex, fully welded. When it was new, it was probably a better handling car, but also kind of a breakthrough car. It had crumple zones. Let's take a peek under the hood. Before we do that, by the way, this is a 1979, and we all know that in 74 and a half, cars sent to America had to have this big rubber bumper. There's also one at the rear. We'll see that in a minute. But this is something that was mandated by those wonderful Washington lawmakers who told car makers how to design cars. So again, from 74 and a half through 1980, these puppies are all known as the rubber bumper cars. Before this, they had a pretty graceful and delicate chrome bumper. Anyway, under the hood, this one here, yeah, of course, it's a four-banger. Now, there was the MGC, which had a 6-cylinder engine, and of course the MGB GT, which had the 3.5 liter Rover aluminum V8, also a General Motors engine, but this is the four-banger. But check this out, it's been hot rodded. A Canon 2-barrel aluminum intake manifold right there with a small Weber 2-barrel, a stainless steel header. Look at that. You can still see the shine on that puppy. So these items right here, this car was definitely owned by an enthusiast. Taste is a little bit questionable with the red highlights on every other thing. Has a little bit of a high school parking lot vibe in my eyes. The blue split wrap, this stuff right here, kind of a little bit goofy, but you know, an enthusiast car, and you know, why not increase the eyeball appeal a little bit? Now, again, the MGB always came with disc brakes up front, and they were a major improvement over what came before. 11-inch rotors, just as big as anything you'll find on a Roadrunner in 1968 up, the optional discs. These are big. They're not vented. This is a solid rotor, but again, this car is light enough to where the heat soak in this thing won't cause too much overheating and warping. So in other words, no need for a vented rotor, which would be heavier. Lockheed made these puppies. Here's the single, it's a twin piston caliper. With this is aftermarket, this braided stuff right here. So whoever had this car probably wanted to have the assurance of braided hoses. And one thing about braided hose like that versus the factory rubber stuff, when the fluid gets hot, these are far better at preventing the fluid from expanding and causing sort of a bit of a drag thing that can happen on really hot disc brakes. Now, this is also a unit construction car, as we mentioned. These do have crumple zones, and up to 30 miles per hour. These things were regarded as being quite safe. Now, if you look inside at the inner fender right here, you can see this indentation. That's not a place for air conditioning. That's actually an intentional weak spot. When this car impacted a solid barrier at 30 miles per hour, this area and others like it were meant to deform and absorb the energy. So again, the MGB in 1962 was one of the first British cars with built-in crush or crunkle zones. So kind of ahead of its time in a way. Of course, rear drum brakes, big though. Look at this. This is like a 10-inch drum, you know, bigger than a GTO drum. It's not as wide, but this does have a Spicer style rear axle, yeah, with a two-piece nut and cotter pin deal. Now this is a GKN rear axle. It's basically a Dana 44 made under license, leaf springs in the back. Earlier MGBs had a banjo type axle, but this Spicer rear axle was a little bit bigger, which triggered something weird in the trunk. That something is this weird bump right here. I believe seen on 1966 up, because again, the GKN rear axle being larger than the one that came before required this bump. So at full rebound, a jounce and rebound, jounce the downward, the axle wouldn't smack into this. So it's kind of interesting how MG had to sort of adapt to the various things that were added to the vehicle. Another thing that's kind of weird, if you own a Corvette, you'll recognize these trunk supports or boot supports, these puppies right here, same basic structure right there. Just like on a Corvette fiberglass hood. And in fact, we see one of these up front as well. And speaking of up front, that rubber nose is mated or matched by a rubber bumper at the rear. Again, this also arrived in 74 and a half. And it's amazing, it's still pliable. We can kind of see right here where If we push on the rubber, you know, it's not too bad. You'd kind of think that this would have turned to dust in the sun. So whatever the chemical makeup of this rubber coating is, it's pretty good. I'm surprised. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Now let's look inside, and we'll notice that behind the bucket seats, you'll see a battery. In fact, early cars had two 6-volt batteries. This one has a single 12, but that red post is the positive side, and like many British cars of this time, that is a positive ground. I'll come around, in fact, if you look at that sticker right there, you'll see that it says, when using boost start, always make sure that you have the proper polarity. Again, positive ground. So don't do the American way with the negative ground. And of course, the bucket seats on this puppy, 4-speed manual transmission, and right here, something special, limited edition. Look at that. What that tells us, this is one of 6,682 MGBs built in 1979, all of them painted black. This is one of them. And now MGB made these cars specifically for the American market, the limited editions. All of them were black, and they initially thought 500 cars would be built. Well, it turns out that demand was strong enough, so 6,682. And keep in mind, 1979 was the year that from Detroit, you could not get a convertible. Again, the lawmakers kind of legislated them out of existence, so no more convertibles in America. So anything with a drop top was big news, including the MGB. So I'll go around to the other side and take a peek at something inside here. So this again was owned by an enthusiast. Now, one thing that we know about British cars is the electricals are made by Lucas, and the joke is, why do the British drink warm beer? Because the refrigerators are all made by Lucas. In other words, they don't work, the beer is warm, drink it. Well, the Lucas electricals on this car clearly did not inspire confidence. We can see that right here on the back side of the console, these wires were installed by somebody from the battery under the console to this switch, which is not factory. It says here Sudbury Laboratory, and this is basically a circuit breaker. So somebody, Sudbury, Mass, this is not a British thing. So somebody put this in here to finally, once and for all, shut the battery off. It could be the car started to catch fire or short out or who knows what. So this is an owner-installed kill switch right here. So again, it's a bit of confidence for the Prince of Darkness, Lucas Electrical. But it has a 120-mile-an-hour speedometer, you know, a sporty steering wheel, part of the limited edition package. And again, you know, when it was new, a fairly peppy car, less than 100 horsepower, but with a curb weight of maybe 2,100 pounds, this would have been a fairly eye-opening little car. And another detail here is kind of cool. These are aftermarket spun aluminum rear view mirrors up on the front fenders. We can see them right there. Kind of a nice little touch. I'm not sure what make these are, but again, these are kind of neat. They're matching. There's a pair of them here. And again, the Corvette owners will recognize this, the hood support right here, with the little latch like that, just like you see on a 427 Corvette. There it is. And another detail too, being that this is a Roadster, cowl shake can be a problem. So we see the windshield, it's a one-piece glass, which is modern, but that chrome thing right there is actually a strut that goes from the top of the A-pillar down to the cowl, and that helps to add rigidity to the windshield frame, which keeps the rear view mirror from fuzzing and wiggling. That's what that is. On a lot of British sports cars, you'll see that. Another weird thing too is triple wipers. Look at that. Isn't that kind of weird? I mean, there were laws that said that the certain coverage of the windshield had to be wiped clear by the wipers, and apparently MG decided that rather than, you know, 2 large ones, 3 small ones did a better job. So there's a lot of overlap in the center, but weird stuff. But you'll also see triple wipers on certain other British cars as well. E-Type Jags had triple wipers in certain situations. So that's the story of this 1979 limited edition black MGB. It's not an MGB GT with that 215 V8. That'd be cool. But again, those were only installed in those sort of station wagon or coupe type MGBs. And again, an MGC would have the 6-banger, but the majority of these things, and roughly 500,000, 500,000 of these things were made between 62 and 80. So these were certainly popular cars and sold all over the globe. And this one here ended up at Burniston Auto Wrecking and probably will stay right here at Burniston Auto Wrecking. But if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Steve Mag's YouTube channel. There's plenty more to come.